Well, kind of just along the same lines of my first question was, I mean, the wait and all these, all these delays and games moved around. I mean, how good did it feel just to finally be playing this game against this opponent?
Yeah, I think our kids are just, they're hungry to get to play. You know what I mean? We thought we were beyond this last year, and now we kind of got in a cycle again. And I think the kids, once they came out of the protocols, it's like we knew we were going to have a ton of games. We are not doing a whole lot in our practice more than game prep and walkthroughs, and they're just getting a pretty decent rhythm of just competing and playing hard for each other. And I think early on there was a lot of things getting in the way of just keeping the game simple. And having Maddie Jackson back in the rotation as we came out of that protocol, that quarantine, she was actually supposed to return that week before we went in. But I think she's a big addition as well, because now we're able to keep some fresh guard legs in the rotation and not playing those through fatigue. We're just getting a ton of bench production across the board, including the post play.
It seemed like you were nodding your head a little bit with kind of Taylor's answer of why this team has learned how to get a lead and keep it. What is your assessment of how the team is managed?
Yeah, I mean, our mentality is totally different right now. Before, there were times where we lacked focus, we lacked energy, we looked fatigued. It was just like, I could just remember every game, I'm like, we just look fatigued. And I'm like, what are we doing? That was kind of my quote on the sideline. And it was just kind of like an opportunity to just recharge when we hit that. We had some success before that hit, and then obviously was under the weather, so to speak, that first road trip. But I just think that opportunity to regroup and address some of our issues that we were doing to ourselves. I think we got to see some things on Zoom, our offense, our defense, when our intensity was there, and allowed us to get back to the identity of who we are. And so right now they're playing to that identity, and they're playing unselfish basketball.
When you see the early discrepancy in points in the paint where Montana is getting down there almost every possession, how important in retrospect are all of the 3-pointers that you're able to get on your own end?
Yeah, to me, I'm like, we shot the ball very well today, so we're gonna have to find other ways if we're not shooting that 3-ball well. And the first stat I looked at coming out at halftime was our lack of paint production. We had gotten to the foul line well, but we just had to get Cola going. We had to get some interior touches going in that second half just to get that balance. I thought the first half we were very stagnant. The ball got stalled. It kept sticking. We just weren't keeping it super simple. And I thought we just really were able to do that in the second half. Somebody like Ashley Van Sickle, her stats, they might only look like 3 for 3 and 3 assists or whatever, but that kid came in and got us in a pretty spectacular rhythm as well. And when you're able to go through your lineup that way, and kids just execute your roles, now you're building that chemistry of trust. And so I just thought we kept the game plan a lot simpler in that second half, and we got some things fixed on the defensive end. Like they said, we've had some really flat third quarters, and they've been able to adjust to that.
It seemed like at times there was some moments of agreement with you and Brian on how the officiating was going.
That was the first time I got to talk to the other coach during the game. I'm just kidding.
What do you make of, there was some elements of letting them play, and then there were some times where the game was called really tight. How do you have to adjust to that?
All I'll say is us coaches on the sidelines, there's not a game yet that we haven't been unsatisfied. So that part's on us, and our job is to coach our kids and adjust to how it's going. Some games are going to be a little bit more physical, some are going to be tighter. We're fortunate with the foul trouble that we did have. We were able to rotate other kids in. I think that is where your bench is extremely vital. Leah Beatty is not traditionally in foul trouble. She was in foul trouble. Maddie Jackson was in foul trouble. Cola was in foul trouble. But we were able to weather the storm because of the production of the other kids. But that's where you have to adjust. And our kids right now, they're stepping up for their teammates.
Ryan, when he was in here, also kind of lamented the fact of having to squeeze in games where you can now because you're getting late in the season. Certainly this game was pushed back twice. Do you have any kind of assessment on how hard this process gets, as a coach trying to prepare players, but also the players trying to keep themselves fresh?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, our kids are resilient, but we're also creatures of habit. I think habits are changing drastically and consistently, so my job is to keep it as simple for them as possible. So we evaluate our days off, what that's going to look like with some stretches coming up, and then you're not not quite sure what is going to be added in that. There's definitely the thought process of that last week, if we do get that added Monday game where we could potentially be on the road for 2 weeks straight there, as you go into the tournament following that. That's one of the other reasons that you have to pay attention to your minutes. You've got to rotate some kids in and protect bodies, which is why so many of those practices we're going to be intentional with that also having some recovery element. You know, our strength coach, I'm thankful for our dietitian. We have licensed nutrition on our staff that is super impactful in recovery. We have Katie Bussey, Coach Bussey, who also is certified in strength training in that area. So she's been extremely important. Our strength coach and our trainer, they're all a piece of it. There is no victory here without the complete support staff and the team. And I think that is going to be a big factor as you hit this next month and a half, because you want to keep your kids as fresh as possible heading into tournament.
So you guys, what would you say, I guess, is the reason you guys have been, or some of the reasons you've been so successful against this team, and especially at home, you know, for the last almost 8 years now, I guess it is?
Well, I'll just say at home right now we have a rhythm about us, and we figured our identity out. And we're not going to change who we are depending on who our opponent is. And for us, everything starts on the defensive end. We want to be disruptive, and we created some turnovers tonight. We want to disrupt our opponent, and I think that is where everything for us has to start, regardless of who we are playing. But at the same time, you know, we're going to have to make some adjustments, because boy, did they expose us in a lot of areas tonight on the offensive end. They're very, very talented, and they're very athletic. They're hard to guard and keeping teams in front. But our kids have a mentality of you have to protect your home court as well.
Would you say playing the Grizz is different than playing any other team in the Big Sky Conference?
Oh, absolutely. You know, you have it circled on your calendar, and everybody can tell you it's just the next game on the calendar. But it's also your in-state rivalry. It's going to be typically your highest attended game, and I just need to shout out to all of our fans, our Spirit Squad, our Spirit of the West marching band. That was one of the advantages that we did get when this game got shifted, was our students were back, and I'm like, we have a student section tonight, right? So I think all those things come into play, and it's going to have a little bit higher energy to it, which was probably really needed for our fourth game in 8 days or 7 days, is what you said.
All right, one more question. And 7 wins in a row now over the Grizz. What does that kind of just say about the program here?
I'm just going to tell you, we take one at a time, and we know that they're going to bring an A game the next time we play them. So we're gonna celebrate this success tonight, and we're going to turn the page for Eastern Washington tomorrow.